dry law list. And it was worried because what you can do, with the type of molasses they were storing, it wasn't cooking molasses, it was for industrial fuels. But what you can do is because it's a derivative of the sugar cane, you can distill it in such a way that you can get alcohol. So one thing that people thought is the tank was built poorly and it was high temperatures that eventually caused it to erupt. But people also thought that maybe it had been overfilled because Boston was worried that Prohibition would put all the bars out of business, so they wanted to have like enough that they could like steal some and make their own booze in the event that it came. But that eventually turned out to be unfounded.
Notice that on the newspaper article, right underneath the 35 states on the dry law list, it has an advertisement for the Boston Tavern.
Yeah.
That's strategic placement.
Yes, no, I agree. Well, also keep in mind, I mean, like this pretty much was the entire paper back then. So, I mean, if you don't put it there, there's really no worries. But no, I still agree. I still agree. All right, okay, anyway, we'll move on now. What notorious outlaw of the Middle Ages stole from the rich and gave to the poor with the help of a group of loyal followers?
Oh, boy.
Zero. Middle Ages.
Clearly you want a certain kind of hooded. You're being so careful.
I'm careful enough.
Should we be sticking to Europe or should we be looking elsewhere?
It is in Europe. Yes.
Oh?
It is in Europe. And unlike, see, because that's just it. Now, the thing with Robin Hood is there's a couple things about it. First of all, like, I mean, it's disputed when, if ever, he actually existed. So for one thing, it's not actually known.
Was it not during the time of King John the Landless? Or no, Richard the Lion-Hearted, which is why he's a lion in the animated movies?
That's right. Yes, no, you're
I know.
I know you know.
Anyways.
I'm glad you know that I know that you know. But anyway, so yes, no, but that's just that Robin Hood, there's no actually objective evidence proving that he ever lived. And I mean,
I'm sure that he was a real guy.
Well, I'm sorry for you. What do I need to say? Good. Okay. Thank you. All right, anyway, so here, I'll flesh this out. This person was actually real. He existed. His name was Klaus Störtebeker. He was a German.
Well, that's quite the same
He does not
presence
have
as...
See, that's just the main point. One reason is because you guys don't actually know anything about German, at least deceiving me all these years. So, I mean, if you translate his name in English, it's actually much cooler.
Wait, say
So
it
that
again,
was
say it again.
Störtebeker.
No, I'm so lost.
Something Kisser?
No, not even close.
Okay.
And actually, Störtebeker, it wasn't his real last name, go figure. It was a nickname which means empties the mug in one gulp. Drinking prowess. So yeah, but that's just it. Nobody has ever heard of him except, if you go to northern Germany. But he was real. He was originally the leader of a group of privateers called the Victual Brothers, who were hired as mercenaries during a war between Sweden and Denmark. And after the war ended, they kind of kept up this activity of looting and pillaging on their own. They renamed themselves the Light Dealers in the process. And I mean, all the proceeds that they stole, they would take to Hamburg, northern Germany. They would sell it. Well, they'd give it to the peasants, who would in turn, sell it for their own benefit. So, I guess in a sense, the first free traders, if you want to.
Everything else went to the local tavern.
Yeah, actually, a surprising amount did. Because that's just that there's a lot of evidence, even though there isn't a lot of like concrete historical data that has like pictures of him or specific dates, locations. It's still uncertain when he died. There is a lot of talk about like he'd come up, they'd drop all the loot off, there'd be like a party, and then they'd all go get smashed, and then they'd go back out.
It all in one gulp.
All in one gulp.
He'd have survived the molasses.
He probably could have. I'll grant him that, yes. But yeah, so interestingly enough though, like there is no real picture of him that survives. So the two I have here, this one on my right, has often been confused to be Störtebeker. People, historians, students have often confused this to be him, but it's actually the court jester of Maximilian I of the Holy Roman Empire. But when you look at this, the one on the left here, or my left, this was based on a skull that was discovered in 1878. They did digital reconstruction based on that skull to try and see if they could recreate him, if it in fact is him. But it's pretty close, I think. So I think the confusion is just
It's pretty close.
Just look at the two here. That's
That
what
is
I'm saying.
not him.
Yeah, you just said it wasn't him.
What I'm saying is, assuming that this is actually him, and assuming that there were, some sort of record at some point that documented what he looked like. I mean, I could understand people being, seeing a picture of this guy and confusing it for that, if in fact that is Störtebeker and that is what he looked like. That's all I'm saying. All right, is it really that hard to follow? Yes. Well, clearly, maybe I need to. I'm not going to go there. All right, so anyway, now according to legend, this is probably my favorite part of this, and this is more badass than anything you're going to read about in Robin Hood, but he was eventually captured by, you know, some hired guns with his 73 kind of cohorts. This was either 1400 or 1401, still uncertain. And they were all to be executed, you know, beheaded by the same guy. So obviously Störtebeker went first, and his dying request was, if after you cut my head off, I'm able to get up and walk, I want you to free as many men as I'm able to pass on my route. So, you know, of course everybody said that's bullshit, you're not going to do that. So they cut his head off, and then his body rose, and he actually stumbled his way past 11 men before the executioner tripped him and knocked him over. Now, the Senate ended up executing him anyway, along with it, so it really didn't make any difference.
What
but
sort of record is this?
Yeah.
I've heard of like heads being able to talk once
Yeah.
they've been cut off, or like still being like sentient, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of the bodies getting up.
Well, no,
Because
He's
you
not
need
a chicken.
brain function.
Had everyone in the audience that day just received, you know, the gifts from Störtebeker that day and hit the tavern just before this?
It's entirely possible. I actually, that's what makes this a legend. Like
You said he was a real person.
The legend surrounds his death, not the thing. It is certain that he was executed, but there's no records of whether or not this survived. It's just in the folklore, which to me is the whole thing.
It seems false.
Well, thank you for your input. It's so valuable. But anyway, towards the end of this execution chain, the executioner was asked by the Senate, he said, aren't you getting tired of killing all these people? I mean, do you want a break or something? And the executioner looked up and said, no, in fact, I feel so good I could kill all of you as well. And he was sentenced to death for treason, executed by the youngest member of the Senate as a result. So, I don't know, maybe some kind of morbid cosmic German justice.
German justice.
Yeah, I think that was their problem. They didn't see the humor in it. Yeah.
I never really sort of imagined executioners to be the snarky type.
Well, I mean, it's a thankless job, though. I mean, you got to get some, you know, personality issues.
Yeah.
I would think they'd be damaged goods, at least at some point.
I think it'd be fantastic to have a snarky executioner.
Well, you can be
If
the
it's like
first one.
if it's your last moments on Earth, you might as well like get a good joke.
Yeah.
Then
Like you
you
have
have
like an Arnold-esque one-liner for every
Yeah.
head he cuts off.
well, funny you mentioned that.
Let's roll.
See you later. Never mind.
Actually, no, it's funny you mention that because this is totally tangential, but I was playing a game on Sporkle that dealt with famous executions. There was a famous serial killer, I think John French or whatever from Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know this one.
Yeah. And he was electrocuted, and he said, just before they turned on the switch, they said, well, here, do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
And so he was a famous serial killer, and he was going to be electrocuted. And back in the day, whenever it was, news affiliates always went to executions to report on them, and so they asked him for like any last words, and he said, "Hey, news affiliates, here's your headline for tomorrow's news: French fries."
And it was. That was the headline for the next day's paper. So somebody thought it was good.
There you go.
But yeah, there you
So
go.
we should all be serial killers and have wit while we're at it.
Well, and also find a snarky execution.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to make it to death row so that we can have that one brilliant one-liner.
I'll tell you what, my
Imagine if
dying...
he gave a shitty one though. That's the last thing they heard.
No, wait, I missed out on what?
It was like a That's What She Said joke or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, when I think about all the famous last words that people have said, I mean, quite a few of them are probably fake, in all honesty. Like, they didn't actually say that as their last words. It was probably said like 2 or 3 days before, and they just like, I mean, what was Oscar Wilde's last words? Like, either that wallpaper goes or I do. And they said that was just like, I mean, I think that's BS. It was probably something like, nurse.
I was always a fan of Voltaire's supposed last words. The priest came to his house and said, Voltaire, you should really renounce the devil. He said, now's not the time to be making enemies.
I forgot what it was specifically, but yes, I know Voltaire did have a memorable one. Many of them do. Anyway, moving on. So, why would this man be associated with the end of the world? That's actually not entirely true. Yeah, I know you know.
Is it in some way associated with the statue that's in the plaza somewhere that was like his supervisor or something like that?
No. Although I'm impressed you remember that.
Yeah, I actually don't remember it, hence why I said it in such vague terms. But
Okay, well, just normally I assume that when I say anything to you, I can see your eyes glaze over. So it just rebounds off like Teflon. So the
Because
fact
he
that
has
you
a
remember
mustache.
that- I believe Casper also had one.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
Jason.
yeah, I had one until a couple of hours ago.
I was gonna ask, is it because he was your supervisor and you are the Antichrist?
I was hoping you'd go over, but that's no, that was pathetic. Anyway, any other guesses?
Well, I was going to go with Jason's comment, but,
Because he's short.
He's taller than you.
That does not by any means make someone tall.
Well, okay. I'm not going to go there.
I have
Any-
more.
I'm sure you do. I'm
Because
sure
he
you
was a
do.
lawyer?
Again, it probably equally good, but no. Well, here, let me put it this way. Where's Dr. Guy Gios from? Surely you all know that.
Chile.
Yes. Is that a clue?
Is the portal to hell. Am I getting close?
If you ask an Argentine, they would probably say yes.
Yes, me and my Argentine friends.
Okay, if you don't have any, that's your problem. Like, you look at me and you say that as if like that's something to be ashamed of. Maybe.
What, okay, tell us, please.
Okay, well, what is chili?
Is that
Cold.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes
We'll break
spicy.
you in gently. It's a country. Very good.
Delicious with
Who-
cheese.
And-
Let's talk about the food chili, Chris, because chili can also refer to a bad.
I wasn't a bad batch of chili. I thought it was the end of the world.
Would you care to
I'm not
enlighten
gonna
us
touch
on what
that.
we're doing?
No.
Please, I'd love to hear the
Please,
graphic
no.
details. Incredibly enlightening and interesting story.
Yeah, no, I figured I'd say the apocalyptic Revelations-esque.
Well, you could make Spree Evans work on it. You tell this chili story.
No.
Is there like a giant volcano there or something?
Well, there are a few volcanoes, but that's
Tsunami.
no. Okay, who inhabited Chile? Let me put it this way.
Chilean.
Dr. Yes.
The Mayans.
Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. And that's why they think the asteroid hit the Earth to kill the
was
dinosaurs.
Mexico.
Interesting, good to know. Sorry?
The asteroid hit in Mexico, like right off of Mexico.
Did it really?
I think so. That's what I learned in 1M03 biology. It means nothing. but-
In biology.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, enlighten us.
Okay, well, I mean, I was hoping you'd get around to this, but clearly not. The Incans used to, they originally colonized the upper part of Chile, and Chile is an Incan word, which means the end of the world. So, there you
They
go.
were also in Peru, though.
Yes, they were also in Peru. Peru means something else.
But
I have no idea. The question is about Chile. It's not about Peru.
I've been to Peru, actually.
Now we're off on topic.
In Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail is a trail that goes from Machu Picchu to Lima, and they used to have, and now tourists hike it in 4 or 2 days, and you hike there, and then I did it when I was like 12, but the trail goes all the way to Lima, which is on the coast, and this is way up in the Andes, and the ruler in Machu Picchu used to demand fresh fish, and he would make his emissaries run down to the coast. They had like a sort of relay system, and they would bring him fish from the ocean and like relay it through like various runners up to Machu Picchu in the mountains.
Did they have to run?
Yes, it had to be fresh.
That's intense.
And it's still today they have porters who run marathons, or like they race the Inca Trail. So all the porters like they'll run it as fast as they can, and they can do it in like a day or something. Like it's crazy.
You have to think that after carrying fish and running a marathon, you wouldn't smell very good.
Well, maybe one would cancel out the other. I don't know.
I don't think that's.
I know. I think. I do know enough about things to know that that's not how it works. But thank you.
I figured if it wasn't written on your notes, you might know.
Well, you can do the notes next time.
All right, yeah.
Suck you into this organization. You can prepare the next notes that we do. But anyway, so yeah, like ironically, I think it was interesting too. See, I mean, you know what? I had a line. I'm not going to use it. But yeah, so most country names, believe it or not, I'm sure most of you figured this out at this point. A lot of their names are very intuitive. I mean, all of you know what Canada means, right?
Yes.
Turtle Island, I think it's called.
Island.
Yes, that's what it used to be called by the Native Americans.
Really? Which tribe?
I don't know. But it used to be referred to as Turtle Island.